let's see, make sure that I can pull up any questions that you guys have here, and just making sure I can see everything on my end. So Angela is amazing. Like, she's done so much. I wish I could just bottle all of her energy and all of her awesome sauce into one big container and just keep her with me all the time. So about Angela, she's a media strategist and on-camera coach, speaker, and TV host. She's a former TV news anchor and reporter. She is on a mission to help others find their voice, master their message, and share their vision with the world. She's a mom of two, which makes sense for her to be on the Rich Mompreneur Show, right? She's worked in top TV markets from KCBS, KMBC in LA to Fox 6 in San Diego, hosted shows for networks such as HGTV. And come on, guys, she's done everything. She's an expert on a variety of local and national shows, including the Today Show. So guys, you guys have a true gem in your hands right now. So take advantage of this opportunity. If you have questions, put them in the chat so we can kind of, pick a few of those and be able to answer them as we go along. But seriously, Angela, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. I'm super excited too. And I'm so glad we get to test out Blab. And, guys, don't get kind of overwhelmed with my bio. It really is. I've had a lot of experience in the media, and now I'm a mother of two, but I also have the struggle of being an entrepreneur and trying to rebuild my business. So I get what everyone is going through, and I really want to use my assets, what I've been through, and really help other people. And that's why I connected with Sandra so much. We met during one of our Las Vegas events through our coaching program. And it was so great to talk to someone who has started all these businesses, and really there's a certain mindset that you have to have, and to talk about how she was able to grow her different businesses. And then the topic of media came up. I mean, she's been featured in the HuffPost, the Washington Post, local stations in Virginia, print magazines, Latina magazines. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, is that there is a formula. You have to believe in your message. You have to have a voice, and you have to be able to share it. So it's not impossible. It's not one of those things like, oh, I'm not made for the media. They wouldn't want to hear from me. If you have something to say and you're an expert, you can help yourself by getting clear on your message and use the media to amplify your message.
Yes, I love it. So exactly what you said is you don't have to be, I think a lot of people think, well, I have to be this amazing people get covered in the media. And yes, amazing people get covered, but you also have to think about what it is that you can offer, your target audience, or how can you help the media? Because the media needs help, right?
Exactly.
Don't you feel like they need help? They're looking for stories. They're looking for content. They're looking for amazing things. They want to be able to bring people on their shows or in their newspapers and magazines to share information that is vital and useful to their audience. So really it's just finding, where you fit into that. So I love that you do the mastering your message, because I think your message is so important. So how do people do that? How do you master your message?
Well, the first thing is, people ask me, well, where do you start? You start with your mindset and your vision. What is it that you represent? People say, oh, I want to be on TV. Okay, that's not your message. Being on TV is not the focus. Now, if you want to be a TV host or a celebrity, I've hosted shows and do reality shows. That's a different avenue. You can get on that way. But if you want to be a thought leader or an expert in your field and get known for your business and what you stand for, you first need to be clear on what you stand for and what you're trying to help people. Then you take a look at the media outlets that would fit your message. And you also have to be flexible. A lot of times, if let's say you're a life coach, like one of the two people I talked to last night, well, that's great. You're a life coach, but what is the topic you're talking about today? Are you talking about maybe there was a downturn in the economy and everyone's getting laid off? How do you transition into a new career? Or school's coming to an end. Maybe you're a mom coach. How do you get ready for summer? You got to take what you do and position it in a way that's topical, timely, and interesting. Now, I'm getting too into the pitch, but that's kind of where people need to start. People need to think not everyone can get on TV. It's not about getting on TV. It's about formulating your message and your vision and having it strong enough, and then making it media ready. So that's what I help people do, is how do you package what you do once you're clear on what you do and how you help people in a media ready package, and you're almost like handing it to them on the plate where you can't refuse it. Because if you think of the mindset of producers and reporters, they're so busy. My friends are like, what's the story? What do you, like, if you talk to them, they're like, yeah. they're not being rude. They literally have deadlines, and you need to know what you're talking about, get right to the point. And, you know, some people say, oh, I have a friend. I had lunch with her the other day. She's a reporter here in San Diego, and we used to work together as reporters in a small market in Bakersfield. And I said, you know, she's like, I get pitch stories all the time. I can't even hear. Like, oh, what if your neighbor came up to you and said, oh, I have a new product or I have a story idea? She said, I wouldn't even ask questions. I go, well, you wouldn't ask them? Isn't that rude? She's like, I don't have time for that. I go, well, what if they came up to you and said, hey, I saw you did a story on this. I just created a product that would totally make sense with what's happening in San Diego. What if I was able to talk about this, this, and this? That's a different approach than, hey, put me on TV.
Right. So one of the things, I know you had asked me this before, and I use myself as an example only because I am like everyone else. So where Angela comes from media background and has that experience, I am just a everyday entrepreneur that has done a lot of different things. And so one of the things that I've done to position myself as a brand expert, honestly, one of the things that I've done, period, is I have built relationships. I have built relationships with my local news people, with my, with the producers of the shows, with, you know, I've built those relationships where it's like, I'm not only going to send you a press release. I'm not only going to tap you when I need to send you this press release. I'm also just going to introduce myself to you and let you know, like, I'm out here doing these things. If you need someone on your show, that is, when I was doing domestic violence, if you need someone who's a domestic violence expert, if you want someone that is using art as healing for survivors of domestic violence, here's, you know, this. We had a dance studio in Virginia. If you want someone to come in and talk about healthy ways to lose weight, you know, fun things to do with your spouse. Like, there was a whole list of topics that I knew we could fit into those, you know, pockets, but I built the relationship before the story. Yes. And then when we had a story, then it was like, oh, here's the story. Because what I learned quickly was that nobody wanted to read my press releases that I spent so much time working on. So tell me about press releases, Angela, because I felt like I spent all this time working on these press releases, and then I kind of went a different direction than press releases. But tell me about press releases as a professional in the news.
Okay. Well, the press releases are interesting. It depends on what you're talking about. There's a pitch and then there's a press release. For print media, you need more of the press releases. And a lot of entrepreneurs or people I talk to, they spend a lot of time on this press release. It has to be formatted correctly. You know what? The producer at the station or for TV, they're not even looking at the press release.
No.
What a press release is good for is additional information after they book you. So let's say when I was a news anchor, I also booked the morning show because I wanted good guests. So I had booker and then producers, and then I would look at some of the things that would come in. Someone would send in, 5-page press release. It's great. But it's all about the pitch. And so what I teach people is pitch strategy. So in a pitch, what you need to know, who are you? What do you do? Why are you credible? And what are you going to talk about? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of as general as that. It's almost like 6 or 7 sentences. Then
very basic.
But in those 6 or 7 sentences, you have to have good information. And then you attach a press release. And a lot of times you'll think people don't even want it on PDF. They don't like a lot of attachments. Even put like the information, the press release in the email. And some of the strategies I'll go through, like later on, if we want to get into more detail, I have a 7-pitch media guide strategy and a worksheet that you can download off my site if you're interested. But right now, let's just talk about press releases specifically. So press releases are valid. PR people still use them. You still need them. Corporations still use them, but they can almost like live on your site for all the information and highlight all the highlights. But if you haven't gotten through the door and you haven't pitched a good story, they won't even look at the press release. So yes, you still need one at some point, but I wouldn't spend all your energy on a press release. You have to spend the energy on your message and how do you tie it into a topical thing that's happening of what you're offering, and you're giving them ideas. Think of it as a story idea and a pitch more than like I have to spend 2 hours on formatting this press release and downloading all these things. But they are still valid. Press releases are valid, but you got to think about it in a different way. It's like we have to figure out a pitch.
I feel like the press release is the supporting documentation.
Yes, it's a supporting document, because if and it's different for TV than it is for print. Let's say I'm in Crunch and I'm writing an article. If you sent them a press release, they may just take your information right from the press release because it's valid and it's proven. So those do work. But for TV, it would be additional information. Like once you book the interview, then I go back the day before I book the interview and go, wait, what information did they attach? Oh, okay, here's their pictures, here's their product, here's their graphics, how how the company started. Here's all the history. So I have it all. So when I ask you questions, I'll know all your information. Instead of having to go to your website and then look for different things, you should attach the press release or attach a press page. So the press page is really important because press knows to go straight to that press page. And a lot of people think of press pages as a look at me page. Well, it kind of is a look at me page, but it's also a how can I help a journalist page.
Right.
So I go there to look for your information, your photographs, stuff I need to download, your company history, your bio, whatever I need, it should be there. And if they're a good reporter and a good journalist, they'll look at that and that's will formulate their questions.
Right. And to that note, so I would love to say, so first of all, I just want to say hi to everyone that's coming in the chat.
Okay, let me look. Let me see. Press release. Let me see. I got your download, Angela. Oh, thank you. I'm going to look away because my computer's over here.
No, so that's fine. You go ahead.
Press release, the cover letter to your resume.
Definitely, Max.
Love this. Oh, yes. I'm glad you're free too. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
If you have questions, definitely drop them in because we will go ahead. A link to the download. Yes. Angela, can you type a link to the
download? It's actually, I'm sorry. It's go to my site and it should be right at the top. If you just go to my site, it's like it's my main download area. And then I also have, that's my opt-in for the full guide and pitch checklist. But if you guys just, if you don't want to opt in, no big deal. There's also plenty of tips in the blog. I just wrote a lot of free resources for how to get on local TV, how to write a local pitch angle. So if you're not into opting in, there's also that. But the opt-in really runs through 7 steps. It's a really meaty download that walks you through 7 things that you should do to get noticed.
Yes. And so I sat down with Angela and we, maybe in like 30 minutes, I was able to like download so much information from her. I mean, she is just a wealth of knowledge. So definitely make sure that you guys are doing that. So Nurse D,
yes.
She says, how do you separate your brand if you are in a saturated field? What gets you noticed?
Okay. What's your field? Actually, Nurse D, are you in healthcare?
She is.
Oh, she's a health coach?
She is a nurse educator, but she also has a company. So I'll let her kind of, give me your, okay. So you call an educator. Okay.
Okay.
I want to make sure I was saying it properly because I know her a little bit. So
yeah. So is she trying to separate your brand overall in, as for your clients to stand out, or separate your brand as far as being a TV expert? I'm sure you want to know both, but what's your question directed towards right now?
Her personal
brand. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So here's what's the interesting part. I always say this. People say, well, why do you need traditional media? I know everyone is social media is important. The last 8 years, I've been studying and developing my brand and building my social media access. But traditional media gives you that third-party credibility that you just can't get. There's so much noise these days. There's Blab, there's Periscope, there's podcasts, there's this. You can go on all these shows and it's great. And you may be an expert in your field, but what does being on today's show do for you? Right? What does being on as an educator, what does being on Dr. Oz do for you? Right? That would set you apart. Now, I know that it seems kind of overwhelming, but that is why traditional media is still alive. A lot of people say, oh, no one watches the news anymore. No one watches TV. Well, and partially that's true because a lot of the people who are online are moving that direction with YouTube and all that. And that's also important. YouTube, all the social media channels are very important to grow your brand. But the traditional media, what it does is it sets you apart. It makes you come above the noise because you have this third-party credibility. Because in order to be on TV and to be good in a 2-minute interview, you need to know your stuff. You need to be clear, you need to be concise, and you need to know your message. You can't ramble on for an hour, like on a podcast. They're not going to give you that space to be able to fully, and podcasts are great. Blab is great to be able to hang out and chat, but you don't have an hour to talk about your message.
Oh, no.
You have a minute. You have 8 seconds. So a typical morning interview is 3 to 5 minutes if you're lucky. Sometimes you'll get cut. Like I had one of my clients that I was helping had a 5-minute interview scheduled. It got cut down to 2. So you need to be ready to do a 5-minute interview or 2-minute interview, or maybe even an 8-second soundbite that they stick inside a story. And so one way to stand apart is to know your stuff and be clear and concise and over deliver and give something that's relevant.
Right. And I think, and so to that same point. One of the things that I encourage all my clients to do is I encourage every single one of my clients to do videos. I encourage every single one of them to use all of these free live stream methods that we have right now, and to use those. It's almost like a portfolio building, for yourself. Yes. So when people go and Google you, the first thing that they're going to look at is your video. Like before they even look at your website or your picture, if they see a video, they are going to go look at that video because they're going to see who you are. You know what I mean? They're going to see who you are on camera. They're going to see, how you articulate. They're going to see if you know your stuff, if you're speaking, if your work and your, what you're pitching them lines up, or if you are that person. So it's amazing at how you can use the technology that you have right now to build that portfolio for yourself and build that personal brand, so that when people are looking for media, when you're pitching yourself to the media, you can even say like, go look at my YouTube channel, go look at, here's some videos, of some topics I've done. They may not look at all your videos. They don't have that kind of time, but they can click around 1 or 2, 3 times and say, okay, she sounds like she knows what she's talking about here. She's professional, she's articulate, she's, a master of her topic. So I love that. I think that's great.
Well, here's what I want to share. It's what I call media momentum. It's my media momentum method. And what it is people say, well, where do I start? I meet a lot of people who I see them, they are so ready. I could see them on Dr. Oz, I can see them on, but they don't have all the pieces. You don't just, say, oh, I want to be on the Today Show, and you get on the Today Show. There's several pieces that you need. And that's why I try to help people. A lot of people, you have it in you. It's in you. If you are working with clients and you are helping people, you have a message, it's all in you, but you have to put them together in a certain way. And so let's say I had one of my friends, she's a health coach and a self-defense expert. Her name's Jen Cassetta. And recently she was on, I think she was a health coach on My Diet is Better Than Your Diet for ABC. But it didn't start that way. She started several years ago and she's like, oh, I was thinking about getting media. I have all these DVDs. And I'm like, you need to do it. And she actually did it on her own without a publicist because she was savvy and able to do it. So she started off locally, and even first she started doing her own videos. She already had herself on DVD. She had herself so people could know what she looked like, and they only need to see like 10, 20 seconds. When I look at a video, it's not about if you're credible or not. It's about like, what do you look like? What do you sound like? And if your pitch is credible and you have good information, I'll put you on TV. But if I can't see what you look or sound like, I'm going to have to pass because I can't trust that you can go on TV. But what I want to talk about media momentum is, here's the formula. It really starts with you putting yourself out there, getting clear on your message, having some sort of video, whether you just start with Facebook Live or whatever. That's for you to get comfortable in your message. Maybe a YouTube video, something to show them. And as you build, you'll have a bigger reel. But what happened with her is that she just did a few videos on her own. She was able to use that to get a small local interview, but she had a good angle. It was athletics and self-defense. Right?
Oh,
because that sounds, you see it, you see the shoe, you see the self-defense, but she was a health coach and a self-defense expert. There are a lot of those. Like you're saying, how do you stand out? There are a lot of those, but something about that stood out. She was credible. She knew her stuff. She was articulate. She was good on video, and they did a little local story on her. Great, with the shots and like doing the whole, the workout routine. Right. Then she got picked up. She didn't even pitch the Today Show. She got on the Today Show because the local NBC station had covered her. They saw it on the feed and they invited her on to Kathy.
Love it.
And that doesn't happen all the time. But if you are good on camera, you have a clear message, and you have a good story, it could get picked up. So you never know what opportunities will lead to. Even like a local, you do a small local paper. Who's reading that small local paper? Maybe a journalist from the New York Times, or you get your message out there. You need to start somewhere. Don't see that it's impossible. You don't have to start at the Today Show. You start by getting clear on who you are and your message and putting yourself out there, and you don't know where that momentum may take you.
Right. And so, it's funny because some people would say, well, how did you get, national coverage on some things? I received national coverage from a local reporter who was a contributor for the Washington Post and the New York Times and those publications. So like she said, you never know who is looking at these stories and who is picking them up. And I wanted to kind of say something about Nurse D. So this is a really interesting thing. So Nurse D is in our chat, and she is a nurse educator. She has a facility where she helps nurses kind of learn what they need to and give them the skills they need so that they can be successful in passing their examinations and being star nurses, right? And so
and I love nurses. We need nurses.
Yes. And so she's using a lot of technology. Her facility is very modern and does not look like a school at all. It looks like a coffee shop. Every time I see her photos, like it's edgy, it's different.
What city is she in?
She is in Newport News. Tell me if I'm wrong. She's in Virginia. I know that for sure.
Okay.
But I can't remember. Suffolk.
I just came back from Virginia. I was in Charlottesville.
Oh, yeah. So she's in Suffolk. So she has a really cool, trendy place that is providing top-notch education. She's getting people from all over the world now because every time she talks, she's getting other people that are interested in what she's doing. She's on, live, and I'm using her as an example because this is really cool. And now she started doing some things for her own personal brand because she's always wearing amazing clothing. And so she's doing like these lookbooks. Like she's like, okay, so here I am an educator, but I'm also stylish. I'm not wearing scrubs every day. I'm also wearing these fantastic clothes. And so she's now showing her personal style and her personal brand. And it's adding another dimension to what she does because it's not just, people think of a nurse and they see scrubs and they think a hospital and a sterile environment. And she is totally changing the game on that. So I really, sometimes you have to look at what is it about your personality? What is it about you? What is it that makes you unique and different? Not just your brand, not just your product and your service, but what is it about you that you're infusing into your brand that really is going to help you step out and stand out? And so I think that, it helps to look at what you can offer that ties you in with that niche. So for instance, me right now, my brand is about being a mompreneur, right? So my baby is a year. I haven't been a mompreneur all this time. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years, but that wasn't my story, right? But now I'm connecting with so many people from that perspective. So I think it's great if you have something that is unique about you and how it can tie in with your target audience and how it can highlight your service in a different way. So if you're like a military, somebody who's in the military and you're, a military entrepreneur, an entrepreneur who's a veteran, or, there's so many different things that you can tie into your story. So,
and that's why it comes back to messaging. Desiree Miller, that's so great. Did you see what she's saying? She was saying that she used to be a produce TV in Norfolk and she knows people there.
Oh, so awesome.
Thanks for joining
us.
Yeah. And so people who've worked in the media, they get it. And it's like, there's so many things that you can do for media, but even for your business, I know that Sandra focuses on branding. That's so important. You really need to sit down. It all comes down to who are you and what is your message? Right. A lot of people get so far ahead of themselves. They're like, I want to launch this product. I want to launch this. I want to launch that. Really sit down with yourself and pull back and go, okay, I have this. What do I want to put out into the world? You got to get really clear. Yes. And that's how I train with my media coaching. So I help people with pitching and also media training once they get on. And once they get on, it's like, how do you frame your interview? Well, framing your interview is just like framing your business. You need to have a meeting with yourself and sit down and what is your vision? What are you going to talk about? What are the things that drive you? Why are you doing this? Getting to your why and your goal is so important. I don't mean goal like your business goals. I mean, getting truly to your why. That helps you build your brand. It helps you pitch your stories. It helps you communicate clearly on air and that comes through. You can go on TV and you can buy some airtime or you can do a quick interview and you may get coverage and that's great. But if you're not clear on your why and you really have a story to share, people will see that. And I think that the people that are very purpose driven and know why they're doing what they're doing for a bigger reason, they really have a presence and they connect on camera. And that's, part 2 of what I teach people. Part 1 is like the pitch strategy. You need to know the exact steps to go through. But then once you get the interview, and not just the interview, the presence for your brand. How are you coming across to other people? It's so important. And so that's the media training portion, which I feel like, a lot of people ask me, like, what if I don't want to be on TV? But being clear on your message and being on TV and getting ready for media makes you a better business person and a powerful spokesperson for your brand. It almost makes people more powerful in their brand. Just by sitting down and getting clear on what you stand for and what you would talk about if you were to be interviewed. And it's so important these days. People are their own personal brands, but you first need to get clear with yourself.
Right. And what do you, so one of the things I always say is like, if you want to make an impact, instead of thinking about the financial goal, think about the I say how many people you can reach, how many people can you impact, as opposed to how many, how can you impact your bank account? Sometimes if you can think in that strategy, like how many people can I impact, it will help you tell your story better, because you want to connect with the people that are out there. And, even though the producers and the reporters and the people that you're accessing, they have tons of things coming at them like every 5 minutes, right? They're like inundated. But
so they still want to hear from you, but they want to hear from good, like, you're like, no. And then when you see like somebody that's like, thank you, you just filled my 8 a.m. slot. Like, that's like, I'm this person. I tie in this, like, you've done all the thinking for me. You're like, I'm like, thank you. And that is my goal, is to match those people up, because when I was a producer, I wanted people, once I found that one expert, I was like, I'm calling you every week. You are on every day at 9 a.m. because you were great and I love you.
Yes. So, okay, because I know that we're getting close to the end here. We're at 9, about 10 minutes out. So if you guys do have questions for myself or Angela, please go ahead and type them in the chat. I want to make sure that we get those answered before we kind of tune off. I also, I wanted to kind of ask you, Angela, while we're waiting for any questions, so what would you say is the first, what would you say is the best way to reach out to media? Like, what would you suggest for that?
Yes. The best way, actually, these days, there was a poll done recently. It's actually email. I think what you should do is start, but you first need to be familiar with who they are. Like if you're, let's say, in Virginia, let's start with your local media. You need to start small. First, get comfortable on camera, do some videos, put yourself out there. But if you're at a point where you're actually ready for media and you have a clear vision of what you want to talk about, and as far as connecting, I would say email. I mean, I go through it all in my 7-pitch checklist, but you can actually call the stations. Now, don't call the stations to chat. You go online, you go to the website, and you find the phone number for the newsroom. The newsroom is crazy. There's an assignment editor. Either he's been there for 20 years or it's a 20-year-old intern answering the phone, and they're just there. They're like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you need? Fax number, this. So you call, go, what's the, find who you're looking for. Who's the producer of the morning show? Who handles booking? Can I have their email? They'll give you their email. They're like, great. And they'll shuttle you off and you say, thank you. You can actually do that. But that's why it's very important to have a clear pitch, because you don't want to reach out to people if you don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to just chat on the phone. But it is possible to get their contact information and you email them. And that's why having a pitch is really important. It's really as easy as that. But if you don't have a good pitch, it's going to get thrown in the trash. If you don't know what you're saying about on the phone, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't have time for you. And don't take it personally. These people are not rude. They're not like, they don't have time for excess information. Right. They do have time for you if you know what you're talking about and you value their time. And so that's the difference, is that, Desiree, I'm sure she knows if she's ever worked in the newsroom. When I was a reporter, I am so into talking to people. I love people. But when I was a reporter, I had a deadline in like 20 minutes. I was like, I can scan people really fast and pick out their soundbite and then I'm off. Doesn't mean I'm rude. It's just like my brain is processing information. And so when you're telling people a pitch, they're like going, yes, 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 no, 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 no. Yeah. Like that's how like TV people work.
Yeah, and Desiree says, yep, when my A&E answers the phone, they just say, speak. They don't even say hello.
So don't take it personally. It's not like you're bad or they don't want to hear from you. I mean, they don't want to hear from you, but they do want to hear from you. So it's this weird dichotomy. If you've worked in the news, if someone says speak to me, I'd be like, excuse me? That's how rude is that?
That's so rude. Yes.
But you just got to think about you have to put yourself in their shoes. They're under so much pressure. But if you give them a nugget that they actually like, hi, oh, yes, I'd like to reach so-and-so. Great. They transfer you. You talk to someone. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I have, I'm so-and-so. Is the best way to reach you by email? Yes. Here's my email. Boom. They hang up. Or they go, yeah, the best way to reach me is by email, but I have some time right now. If they have time, you can pitch them on the phone. If they don't have time, say thank you and hang up and contact them later.
Basically. So no, that's great. One other tip that I will give you is like, if you are doing things on the weekends, like they don't have a lot of people on the weekends. So you need to pitch that like before the weekend, like, because they like things that are timely, but also if it's on the weekend, sometimes they're not going to have somebody to come out to your event or do a story or whatever. So you want to be able to, unless it's like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like someone got murdered, then of course they're going to run out there. Right. But I mean, like something crazy, like, news, crazy breaking news, yes, they're going to run out there. But if there is something that's going on with your brand or some type of event that you're doing or something that's, in a grand opening or these kind of things, and that you have a reason for them to be there. And I always say, if you're the first of something, usually they'll come out, right? If it's something like the first XYZ, first type of business. But you want to do that beforehand because the weekends are really, really tough. And so that I've learned because most of my events that I did when I was doing events were on the weekend. And it was like, if I didn't have those pitches in beforehand, it was a no-go. And they would just let me know.
Yeah. Here's
Unless there was a hole somewhere.
I want to give people a sense of timing. So the morning show functions like the morning show. Those are generally, if you have lifestyle topics, health coaches, business coaches, anything fun kind of, and not all morning shows are the same, because in our market in San Diego, I would only pitch probably 3 of the stations for morning show pitches, because the other morning shows are all like news, weather, traffic, news, weather, traffic, news, weather, traffic. They're not interviewing guests. Like it wouldn't be a good fit. Doesn't mean you're not a good story. They wouldn't even put it on. They do the 2 hours. But the ones like for us, it's Fox 5, CW6. You have to watch the shows and see what works. Like I have a friend, she's an evening reporter. She only covers like gritty breaking news. She doesn't cover the features. If you want to do a feature, you need to contact the feature reporter. And so you got to think of it in segments. Even though it's one station, you got to think of each station as almost like a different show. Like the morning shift is different than the day shift and different than the night shift. So if you've pitched like the nighttime reporter, even though you go, oh, I've already pitched that station. If you pitch a daytime reporter, it's a different reporter. It's a different news cycle. And so you can cover all your bases. When the shifts change, just like when you're a nurse, you got a new, you have a new person on duty, they cover things differently. And you were talking about the weekends. The weekends actually sometimes are really good to start. Like the weekend morning show would be a really good place to start if places have it, because you think about it, weekday is prime time. Weekend, there's not as many viewers. So people tend to need more guests for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And what you were saying about it's good to get your pitch out early, but also if it's slow on the weekend, you can call up and go, hey, I sent in some information on Thursday. And then, the assignment editor will be like, who, what? And they'll reference it again. You can follow up. And also I talked about not as many people watch on the weekends, but that doesn't matter. This day, and that's why I talk about the media momentum. It's not always about who's watching at that moment. They have online sites. That story is going to air on their site. You can take it and put it on your site. You can tweet it out. You can put it, you can amplify it on your website. You can put it on your mailings. You can put it on your newsletter. And that's what I talk about media momentum, is that you start small. It builds and builds. Local media can lead to national media or just more local media. And then you amplify it back. And it's this whole circle of media momentum where at some point, people are going to be calling you and you're going to be so busy that you're not going to want to do press.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. So we have one question I'm going to throw out there, and it's from Nurse D. Hold on. I'm trying to find it in the feed here. But she said, clarity and brand identity. A lot of people do one thing 1 month and then something the next. I don't know why it's scrolling. They are doing something else. The next month, they're doing something else. Is this a detriment? So you want to speak to that? I feel like I could speak to this.
I'm sorry, what was it? I didn't
so
hear
she
you.
said, clarity in brand identity. A lot of people do one thing and the next month they are doing something else. Is this a detriment?
Is this a vetrinet? What?
A detriment.
Oh.
Detriment.
Well, it can be. I think you mean for media or just in general, people are just switching brands all the time.
She's saying the brand identity and the brand clarity is important. But if someone is switching, I guess, back and forth from what their focus is, will that be a detriment?
It's not actually a detriment, but it's also a detriment to yourself, right? It's like when you're not clear on what you're doing and what you're putting out there, it's hard. There's difference between experimenting and trying to figure out where your zone of genius or evolving into a new brand. Switching your whole identity all the time, it can be perceived as kind of flaky, just like if you switch jobs all the time. Now, there's a difference of evolution. Some people, they start off as a health coach, they help all these health coaches, and then they realize that everything they're helping them on is on mindset, and that they've been studying mindset, and they're studying the law of attraction, and they become mindset coaches. Like for me, I'm a media coach, but I actually help a lot of women overcome their internal barriers and that whole mindset issue. So I put kind of my life coaching into my media coaching, depending on what my clients need. But I brand myself as the media expert because that's where my expertise lies. But it doesn't mean I switched identities. Now, if you're all of a sudden changing your logo every 2-3 months, no, that's probably not good. And it's not good for you, you know. But so I would say that. And also I wanted to say something about Desiree. She's giving such great information. I'm going to find you online afterwards. And Desiree Miller, do you know who she is or she just joined in?
I have not met Desiree, but I'm excited that she's on here. She's giving some great things.
Great tips. One of the things she said, I didn't want to, she said, don't call during the newscast. You're right. The desk will answer during the newscast, but no one else. Everyone's in the control room. So if you're pitching the morning show, the best time to call is right after the show ends, about 20 minutes after the show ends. Like where they're kind of like done for the day, getting ready for the next day before they leave, but not too late because they're ready to get out of there.
Right. So I did want to answer Nurse D too, because I am a serial entrepreneur and she actually knows me because she has interviewed me for one of her publications. And so I am a serial entrepreneur. I've done so many different things. And one of the things that I realized is, and this is a honest, you guys are getting this on camera right now. I am better at starting businesses, building brands. Like I am good at branding and I love it. And so that's kind of the direction that I got after starting so many different businesses. Now I've had flops, I've had successes, I've had all different types of businesses. And the one thing that I realized is when you're, you know, as an entrepreneur, because you're not in the 9-to-5 grind, you find yourself going through these evolutions. You know, you find yourself going through these different places. The one thing I will say is that if you are a consummate professional and if you are always authentic and real in your brand, regardless of if you decide to go a different direction, your people will still follow you and you will still be seen as a credible, you know, person in your field if you stay ultimately, you know, authentic and real about every single thing that you do. And that has been the most, you know, amazing thing for me. I have people that have been following me since my first business when I was 20 years old. Okay. So, and that was before internet. And so, I feel like it doesn't matter what you do. If you stay authentic and if you are speaking to that audience and that audience only when you are working in those brands and those businesses, that if you switch, you will be okay. But when you are doing one business, I think it's important to be aligned and in focus and your message be on task and on target for that business. So that's what I got for that.
Yeah, and there's no problem. I mean, I love watching people evolve and grow, which is different than switching back and forth, changing your mind, being flaky, one program, you know, and it depends on where you come from in your business. Now, I've switched brands a little bit. You know, I was a full-time, you know, type A hardcore journalist, getting the story in LA and San Diego, and then I became a mom. And then I shifted. I'm like, what am I putting out there now? And then I started a mom blog called The Zen Mom. I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And I got really into that whole industry.
Google her, peeps. Google Zen Mom.
The Zen Mom. It's not active anymore, but it has great, like 7 years of content. I started writing for all these sites, parenting sites, doing videos. But then my children got a little bit older. And I realized that a lot of the people where my passion lied was helping people grow their personal development, helping them with the struggle of being a mom. But I really like talking about business and media and your voice and your message. And that always came across in my writing. Even on the Zen Mom, a lot of my posts were about work-life balance, how to share your voice, how to break through your barriers. You know, that had to do with mom life a little bit, but it was more about, I love helping people break through their internal barriers. And whether you're a mom trying to struggle and you don't know. So I wrote about parenting for a while and then I kind of evolved. And so that was the evolution. And so this year I had to actually kind of say, okay, I'm not doing that as much. But I'm still a mom. I still know all those issues. I have all these contacts and all these people that I connect with, but it's just not my focus right now. But it's still part of my brand. My brand is still the Zen Mom, but it's not what I put out there into the world because right now I'm focused on media and helping more entrepreneurs and men, not just women and men. And so it's really interesting how you can evolve, but yeah, just don't waffle back and forth. Get really clear on who you are.
I love it. I love it. So Angela, because we're wrapping up and you kind of
we're wrapping up. We can talk forever.
I know, for real.
I was talking about burnout.
I know. So that's exactly where that Zen Mom kind of brought us to the right place, like burnout. So guys, the reason that we're talking about burnout is because both Angela and I hurt our backs. it was like, we don't know what happened.
Did you hurt your back again or just from before?
My back was already hurting. So, pregnancy,
yes.
Guys, it's can be tough, And then after I had my daughter, I went through a lot of back problems. And so I'm still kind of in recovery, and I thought I was doing good. I was working out, doing all kinds of things. And then it's just like, ugh. Like I just hit that place where it's like, it's hurting again. I'm having spasms. I'm just done. And a lot of that too is, okay, so I will be honest, I don't have the most ergonomical desk space. I probably need to fix that for sure. And so I'm sitting at my desk.
I'm working on that too. I bought a new stand. Have you guys seen those? Have you thought about it? It's a laptop.
I ordered one. I ordered one so I can stand. I ordered one so I can stand when I'm doing this, because right now, my posture is not that good because of the way I'm sitting. So yes, guys. So the reason that we're talking about burnout is because it's so real, and it's so important to kind of have balance in everything you do. And some people say there is no balance, and there might not be balance for you. But for me, it's knowing that if I'm exhausted and if I'm having pain, that means that it's too late.
Yes.
That means that I have gone beyond where I needed to find the balance, right?
Yes. Well, I'll share just quickly, and I teased in our little thing about how laying on the couch brought me clarity in my business. I'll tell you why. Very scary. So I threw out my back about 2 weeks ago, and I hadn't thrown out my back since about 8 years ago when I had my first child. And what happened is last year I really spent time focusing on my business and my health and worked on my back. And, as moms, even as guys, guys that work out as we get older, your backs, you have pain, and you shouldn't have pain. If you have a chronic condition, yes, we shouldn't have pain. But as women, we tend to deal with that pain a lot because you just have to get
push through it. Yeah.
You push through it. Last year, I totally focused on, I shouldn't be in pain for 3 years, like a subtle pain, like an aching, not your back going out. You shouldn't deal with that pain for 3 years. I focused on it. I went to the chiropractor. I went to the acupuncture. I took care of my health. My back was fine. What happened 2 weeks ago was that we had been going through the 90-day year. I've been loving my business. I've been, I redesigned my website. I've been getting new clients. I've been putting myself out there. I've been doing new videos. And what happened was I was foregoing all the things that made me zen. Now, I'm a type A person, but I meditate in the morning. I like, focusing on things about what's important, about family and people, and really being there for people. And what had happened is I'd cut out some lunches. I had skipped working out because I had a few deadlines. I had just been talking to my clients and really excited about them. My body was kind of hurting, so I decided to go to yoga. And I said, this week I'm going to do green juice. I'm going to do yoga. I did this great 2-hour workout, totally blissful. Body felt great. I bent over to stand up. I couldn't get up. I had to lay on my friend had to carry me to the car. I was screaming all the way. I laid on the couch for about a day and a half. My husband's like, can you go upstairs? I'm like, I can't go upstairs. I don't know what to do. Finally made it to the doctor, and I was fine. I realized that I didn't need surgery. I was fine. I got to the doctor, and now I've been taking care of myself. I had to work in bed for 2 weeks. Right? I was with the pillow under my legs. So what I was trying to... Did your hair
look that good while you were doing it? Because it looks great.
No, it looked like good. So what I was trying to say is that my body told me 2 weeks prior to that to slow down.
Yeah.
I could feel it.
It's those little tweaks. It's those little things that it's like those little things that we are not paying attention to.
And people told me, how did you do it? I go, well, I did it by getting up. I didn't do it during yoga. I did it my back everything was telling me, Angela, you need to and I was already slowing down, but it was already too late. It was 2 weeks past the point where I should have just, does not eating lunch and eating lunch at your desk save you that extra 10 minutes? If you just went calm down, go outside, get away from your computer, eat a bowl of something, go outside, sit in the sun, give yourself that break. I know all the tools. They say work for 90 minutes, give yourself 10-minute break. Meditate in the morning, go for a walk, don't check your email in the morning. These are all great tips. I know all these things, but I wasn't doing that. And some people may not even know these tips. So I know exactly how to be productive. But there's a different level of productivity and systems. You may have the productivity, you may have the systems, but unless you're integrating them into your life.
Oh, yes. So for me, so Angela and I, we talked about being in this 90-day year thing. And so it basically was a system that you can implement in your business to help you kind of fast track and have goals and systems in place so that you're not planning your whole year and don't have any wins along the way. And so it's basically micro goals to reach a bigger goal within a 90-day year period. So
it's a mindset and a framework to put your business into. So you're not, we all multitask, but
Yeah.
it's not very effective. You need to figure out, I'm a, especially Desiree working in news, I multitask all day long. My brain is like a giant multitasker, but it's not very productive for business if you're going to be a serious business person.
And that's exhausting. I will tell you, it's exhausting. Sometimes I feel like I want to turn my brain off. Come on, entrepreneurs. Don't you want to turn that thing off every so often? Like, I'm like, it drives me crazy. So to that note, I want to show you guys, because she does her yoga. I'm not a yoga person, but this is what has saved my life. So I have
your journal.
Yes, I have a bunch of these journals. They're like piled up here. So I have different kinds of journals. My most favorite journal is my wins.
Your what?
My wins.
Oh, yes.
So I have a wins journal.
Yes.
And so I will be honest with you, because I was not seeing my wins, I was working myself to death. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I was not reflecting, because I wasn't taking the time to see my wins. And so in the first 90 days, I was rocking it. I was going in and I was like, oh, check that off, win, win, win. But then I stopped after that. And I got overwhelmed with like, okay, what am I going to do next? What's the next shiny thing I'm going to, do?
Yes.
And so I stopped focusing on all the little wins. And so writing in my journal, I talked about this with my coaching students yesterday, and some of them are on here. Writing in my journal is super important. So I do not go to bed without writing my wins in here. It's super important. And my win can be, I typed an email. I set up an email, funnel, whatever it is. It can be something. So some days it's like, I ate lunch. Okay, look, just totally want to be honest. Some days it's, I made dinner for my husband and we actually were able to spend that time together. I mean, these are small wins in my life because I have a 1-year-old in a few days. And so it's really, I'm trying to maximize the time that I have. And sometimes my time feels, I looked at one of my clients yesterday. She had done 2 hours worth of work in a whole day. Like when she showed her productivity, it was like 15-minute task, 30-minute task. Mm-hmm. And then she had all these breaks in the middle. She has a 3-year-old that's running around behind her. And she's like, this is the time that I got things done. In a whole day, I got 2 hours worth of work done. And I said,
that's a lot.
That's a win. That's a win. And sometimes we're not looking at that. If you did 15 minutes of productive work, now that's not searching the internet. That's not scrolling. That's not, chatting. That is real productive work. That's a win. And so sometimes I think we just need to start looking at those wins and being able to not make ourselves so, that intensity of getting to the next thing, right? So, we're all excited about what we're doing. And I know all you guys out there are entrepreneurs and doing different things. Yeah, it's super exciting. And you have to celebrate those wins. You got to reflect, celebrate. You got to take time to eat, get some vitamin D. You got to have balance.
Here's the thing I want to talk about wins, though. I think wins are important for your business, but also your personal wins, because I think that's what I started getting away from. It's like, look around. Like if you have kids, like if you're at a different stage with a 1-year-old. Right now I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. I'm much more free to do. When I had a 1-year-old, I was still like, I had like stuff hanging off of me. I was still a little bit, except when I went to work. When I went to work, I was polished and was together. But when I was at home with my children, it's a lot to juggle. But I wanted people to focus on their wins. I know we're getting off into my back problems and all that, but the key takeaway for this is I talked about how laying on the couch helped clarity in my business. What it helped me remember is why I do what I do. I do what I do to become an entrepreneur. I left a full-time TV job.
Crazy environment, busy, stressful.
But also because I wanted to take some time for my children at the time. And now I can rebuild my business on my terms. I think most of you who are entrepreneurs, that was the whole point. But it's hard because sometimes revenue is not coming in the way you want. Things aren't working out the way you want. But the bottom line is you took this role so that you could create the flexibility in your life. But then in order for us to get ahead, what we do is we're constantly chasing the next big thing, and we're forgetting the whole reason why we got into it. So what brought clarity for me is that I was getting a little bit into overwhelm with the 90-day year. I love the 90-day year. I love the people in it. But what happened is you start getting on all these feeds and you're watching everyone do everything, and you got to realize you're not on the same journey that they are on. You take their valuable input and you can learn from their wins and you can learn from what they're doing, but don't try to be them. Don't try to be at the level they're at. Maybe they don't have 2 kids running around. Maybe they're single. Maybe they just got divorced. Maybe they, whatever's working in your life may not be working in their life. Whatever's working in their life may not be working in your life. So
I tell this to people all the time. Your time constraints are not other people's. Your life, your business, your parameters for how you run it and when you can run it is not the same as everyone else. And so, I work with these crazy moms that do their business while their kids are asleep. And so it's like, if your kid only takes a 30-minute nap and that's all you have, girl, that's all you have. I mean, you're going to have to work with that. So let's see. That man Matt says, productivity is brilliant to avoid burnout, but what else can we do? I've been thinking about what it is to stay sane with your success in terms of managing money, relationships, teams, and the like.
I want to say, I want to explore that. So if you but can you both share how you've been thinking about avoiding burnout beyond productivity? Avoiding burnout beyond productivity. Burnout in general, I was just talking about how to getting clear on myself. So how laying on the couch made me clear on my business is that physically, it's not good for our health. I'm getting to an age, I'm not really young. I'm not really old, but a lot of my friends, I'm a true believer in health and wellness and the core. You have to be healthy on the inside, your attitude, everything to be successful in your business. And we let a lot of that go to like power out. Okay. But we're at a stage where people are getting cancer, people are getting sick, my parents are getting sick, and there's so many things to deal with. You don't want the wake up call to be that, that was a wake up call for me when I couldn't walk. That was a wake up call. I'm like, what if I stayed like that for 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, a year, whatever? It went away in a day, but what if it didn't?
Yeah.
What am I doing all this for? And so for me, it was getting clear in my business of like, I don't have to do it like everybody else. Here's what's going to make me feel good. If your insides are like adrenal glands are pumping and you're like anxious all the time and you're fighting with your husband that's not the right way to run your business. You need to pull back and say, yes, I'm going to let go of a little productivity to feel good in my body, which will actually make you more productive in the end when you give yourself that space to grow.
Right.
And the wins are important. I love that you celebrate your wins.
The wins are important.
Review, and you'll actually see that you're not that far behind. That's the
problem. That you've done more than you thought you did.
Yes.
So one of the things I would say is boundaries. Like, set boundaries, set a schedule for yourself. Even if you don't meet the schedule exactly, if you put it down, you're more likely to do it. You're more likely to meet those expectations and goals that you have for yourself. So one of the things that I did is not a work schedule. It is a play schedule. So in the morning time, my daughter wakes up at 6:30, and from 6:30 to 8:30, she's up, and that's my time with her. I don't do business. I don't do anything. At 8:30, I put her down for a nap, and then I start doing what I need to do. But prior to that, I felt that urge to like get up, check my phone, check emails, do this, do that.
It's so
hard not to do it. It's so hard, especially because I am in California and my clients are on the East Coast and they're already up 3 hours before me. So when I wake up at 6:30, it's like 9:30 and they're like, hey, so I had to set those boundaries. It's like, I do not work until 8:30 Pacific time. That's when my daughter goes to sleep. That's when I can start cranking. And then the other thing is I have my no work Fridays, which are non-negotiable. I do not work on Fridays.
Oh, I love
and that. I just don't. And so, my clients know that I don't work on Fridays. Everyone knows. It's like no work Friday. It's my time to do whatever I want to do. And so if I decide to like do some type of work, because we're all guilty of it, right? Check Facebook or do whatever. I don't feel obligated. I don't feel stressed. If I do it, I do it, but I don't have any kind of pressure behind that. So, all right, guys, we are going to wrap up because I know we said 30 minutes. We are now at the hour.
I just want to wrap up. I want to summarize the burnout tips though. So now that we're summarizing burnout, number 1, listen to your body. If your body hurts a week before, start taking care of yourself. Number 2, don't go into overwhelm and comparisonitis. Do not I do this a lot. Have the iPhone by your bed. And the first thing you do is you check your email. Do not check your email in bed because your brain will go into like 50 different directions. I actually have a meditation playlist on my phone instead. And I try to do that right when I wake up. And then when you're ready to plug into work, plug into work. And number 3, celebrate your wins. Write them down and you'll realize that you're much further ahead than you thought you are, especially if you have a framework and a system in place.
Very cool. So guys, I put in the chat where you can download Angela's media checklist. So go ahead to her website. She's got
thank you.
Her media strategy checklist, which is at angelachee.com. You guys can follow me on here, subscribe to my channel so you'll know when I'm coming back on. I have really enjoyed having you on here, Angela. And if you want to visit my website, it's sandraguynes.com, just like my name on here. Guys, if you enjoyed this, if you love this, give us some props while you're on here and Sharing is caring. So feel free to share this. I will leave this live for a few days, and then usually I will make these private and I'll add them to my YouTube channel, which is also under the same name. I am Sandra Guynes. So guys, was Angela amazing? I think she was awesome, right? Yes, thank you. Awesome job. Awesome blab.
Yes, I was so happy to try. This is my first blab. So when we talked about this, I was like, let's try it out. Let's test it out. And I'm so thankful. So yes, go to my site, angelachee.com. You can follow me at Angela Chee TV. I'd love to connect with you more, guys, on blab. I'll join your blabs. I'll check it out. And at some point I might start my own blab. And also I'm working on a new YouTube channel and also experimenting with whether I'm going to turn it into a podcast about media and entrepreneurship. So these are some of the topics that we're going to be talking about, is also media specifically, but also just how to grow your business and actually people's stories. I love hearing people's stories on how they're growing their business. And we all go through different struggles, whether you're still in the corporate world or you're in the entrepreneurial world. You know, all of our struggles are the same, and it's really about what do we want to put out into the world and what do we want to say. So that's my mission in life, whether I do media or life coaching or whatever. It's really about who are you, what do you want to say, and how are you going to amplify it and share that with people.
Yes. Well, thank you guys. You have some amazing responses in the chat. Awesome blab ladies. Yes. Thank you, Angela. Well done. This was so powerful. Great job, Angela. You're both brilliant and precise.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. Thank you guys for having me on and for joining us. I know time is valuable, so I hope that you were able to get some great takeaways from this and that we can all energize each other and get out there and do it or don't do it. You can either go for it, it's going to energize you and make you do more, or maybe it'll make you take a break and say, you know what, today's okay, I'm going to give myself some slack.
Yes. Well, Angela, you've been amazing, and I will see you offline. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, share it if you think this could be helpful for someone else. And I'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Did we end it?